Hi, my name is Laisha Welchman, and this is my case study reflection for the Missing Booster Club funds. In this scenario, the middle school principal has been working at this school for 4 years, and he's well liked by the students, by the families, and by the staff. The middle school is in a large city, but it's actually in the residential area. Unfortunately, the student population has been decreasing as the younger families are moving out to the suburban area of the city, and the socioeconomic status has also been declining. In this specific scenario, the principal was approached by a family seeking funding to send their daughter to New York City. She had achieved all-state status in cheerleading and was going to participate in the New York City Holiday Parade. The parents had crunched the numbers and figured out that it was going to cost about $800 to send her, and they asked if PTA could fund her trip. The principal declined, stating that PTA money should be used for the good of the whole student body and not just for one student. Well, a few days later, there was a basketball home game, and it was the final game of the season. It was very, very busy, and the principal noticed that there were some funds missing from the ticket sales. In the problem analysis, we know money is missing. The parent volunteers were busy, the seats were filled to capacity, and the principal was unable to oversee what was going on with the volunteers and with all the money changing hands because they were involved in supervisory duties. But over the course of the night, at one point, a dad specifically mentioned that he had paid with a $50 bill because he'd just gotten paid, so he only had large bills. At the end of the night, when the principal was counting the money and trying to reconcile the accounting sheets, he realized that there was a $50 bill missing, as well as the value of 10 tickets, and some other currency was missing from the bank bag. What else we know, just in reviewing the scenario, there are some accounting safeguards in place, and the principal even felt pretty good about not being right over everyone's shoulder because he had reliable parents in place doing the volunteering and taking the money. There are 2 people working at the concession, 2 people working at the tickets, and at the end of the night, the principal had a security guard to escort him to his car to make sure that the money was safe. But when the principal counted the money in front of the security guard, that's when he noticed that things were missing. He also noticed that there was a note saying that, hey, these tickets were torn, so we couldn't use them, so, discount the value of that. But it was not accounted for. What we need to know to help solve this problem is, are there working video cameras that we can pull footage from to help us figure out what's going on? Who else worked the tickets with Mrs. Bowman? Did each volunteer fill out their own ticketing accounting sheet? Did anyone ever count money in front of somebody else just as an extra safeguard? And where was the cash that wasn't being used stored? Was there any time when that money was just left out in the open where anyone could have gotten to it? The problem actually is who is responsible for the missing funds from the ticket sales. So when I'm discussing this point forward, I'm just going to put myself in the shoes of that principal. If I was in this situation, I would immediately recount the money just to make sure I hadn't made a mistake. And as I do that, I would also have the security guard make sure they're watching me very closely. And then if I still notice the missing money, I would document any discrepancies that I notice and have that security guard sign as a witness, probably timestamp it as well. I would contact the board office for a couple of reasons. One, I would want to make the business office, the assistant superintendent of businesses aware, or business services aware that we have an issue. And I would also contact, because this is a PTA event, I would contact the district administrator that is tied with the PTA. Apparently in our district, it's the assistant superintendent of student services. I was not aware of that before doing this assignment. So I would contact those people and just make them aware of what's going on and see if they have any ideas going forward what we should do to proceed. I would sit down and document my accounting of the events, making sure to note that the gentleman had mentioned that he paid with a $50 bill, and that's what I noticed was definitely missing. I think I would need to meet with the parent volunteers at ticketing just to kind of see if they notice anything interesting, anything off that day. And hey, somebody mentioned they specifically paid with a $50 bill. Did you put it somewhere else just to make sure it was safe? And where might that have been? Just have them document any kind of observations that might help solve the problem. I would hope that just making them aware that there was an issue with money, that might be enough for them to be like, oh yeah, we put it so-and-so, and then it would miraculously show up. I would really hope that would be the case. If we found out that someone had stolen the money, which unfortunately it seems like that's the case, that parent should no longer be volunteering anywhere that there is money involved. But again, I feel like we need to pull in PTA in this case. The president needs to be involved, and also the PTA treasurer needs to be involved. As a last resort, again, I would see what my district administrator stated or proposed, but I would have to probably contact the authorities. I'm just not sure if there's a money amount that we would have to meet before we contacted the authorities. I mean, $100 isn't too much in the grand scheme of things, but somebody stole from our children. And if we let this slide, it's only going to get worse. Moving forward, I would propose that we have 2-part tickets. That might help a little bit with the ticket inventory. I would definitely talk to the PTA about maybe revising money handling protocols. Do we need to have somebody from the district always present no matter what? And if it's been me and it's been okay, obviously in this situation it wasn't, because it was too busy for me to oversee everything. So maybe we need to have somebody else step in, or maybe it's another PTA member. We need to revisit that. We need to make sure that there is limited access to any other money that's being stored and those tickets. And I think that it's important, if it didn't happen here, that each person selling the ticket has their own accounting sheet to document what they sold and what they have left over. I also think that the money should be counted or reconciled before our volunteers leave. In this situation, it seemed like it was just the security guard and the principal who was there doing that. If we could stagger the dismissal of volunteers handling money, it would be easier and not so crowded at the end to try to do that. And also ticket sales, they're done at a certain point. So you let one go, you maybe leave one person open until one point, till a certain point of the game. And then after that, you're not selling tickets anymore. So I think by staggering the dismissal, it will help to make sure all the money is accounted for right then and there, so we don't have to call people in at a different time and have that awkward conversation. Again, if it needs to happen, it needs to happen, but that might be a little bit more proactive way of going about it. I also think we have this family who has a great celebration, and it seems like they're going to struggle to be able to provide their daughter this opportunity. So it'd be great to see if we have any scholarships in-house that would help give this opportunity for you, or even start to look at the possibility of doing that for the future. The feelings that I had, I was just frustrated, and I was filled with regret over the course of this case study. It was a great opportunity for one of our students, but it was a financial burden for the family, and I felt that our hands were tied on providing that for the family and for the cheerleader. I'm frustrated because there are several safeguards in place to secure the funds. We had the pre-numbered tickets, we had the inventory for this concessions, but didn't necessarily foresee that the administrator might be too busy to really be present. So that was very frustrating to me. And if this is a PTA event, who else could that be besides just the administrator? I'm frustrated that somebody would steal from the students, and I'm also frustrated that, although a little bit grateful, that it is a minor amount of money, but this is going to cause some serious problems in the school community, no matter how it shakes out, because if it gets out, oh, that's just not going to be fun. I feel like what's valued in this case study would be the relationship. So the principal's only been there for 4 years and has a pretty good relationship, it seems like, with the stakeholders. And also he has, it sounds like, a great base of parent volunteers that keep these things running, which is absolutely fantastic. Opportunities for students are valued. First of all, we're collecting money for future events, and the fact that one of our students is an all-state cheerleader and has an invitation to go to New York City. That's pretty awesome. I feel like our school money is also valued in this scenario. The principal put his foot down when he said, I'm sorry, PTA money cannot be used to send one child somewhere, although it's a great thing and I'm so proud of her. We need to reserve this money for the good of the student body. And the fact that there were safeguards in place to try to protect the school funds. Unresolved issues, obviously, we need to figure out what happened with that money. I think that we need to revisit those safeguards for any money that's being collected. And I also think the principal's role with PTA, in our book it mentioned that the principal was an advisor, but I was talking to some administrators about this scenario, and they're like, yeah, but you sit on the board of the PTA, so you do have some pull in what's going on. And ultimately, if this is happening at a school event, you're going to have to deal with some of the issue as well. And the unresolved issue is, will that student be able to go to New York City? I hope that's the case, but it depends upon what happens with the scenario. So that is my reflection for the missing booster funds. Thank you very much.